report and our findings among specialists who can also recommend their patients to keep diet and prevent recurrence of the stones. Thank you. If you have questions.
Thank you for the interesting study and presentation. I have two questions, one about inclusion criteria, the other about some findings. Why did you exclude the recurrent cases from the study?
Because recurrence of the stones is by itself it's a risk factor for having a stone. It is shown in the literature for that in about 50% or more percent of cases we can see a recurrence of the stones in most patients in 5 to 10 years. That's why we excluded recurrent cases to see like exact effect of the food, of the diet and other factors.
Yes, but some portion of your cases will be recurrent in future.
But now we can see how it. We have seen the effect of diet now before the recurrence of the stones.
Okay, I wonder because you found that older age is protective factor for stones, and this seems an artificial finding because you excluded some portion of the cases. That is why I'm asking.
Yeah. I can say that many studies have shown that older age is is a risk factor for the stones, and that is why when we found that older age has protective effect, it's for recurrent cases. That's why our study is consisted only with those studies which excluded recurrent cases. For those studies which didn't exclude recurrent cases, it is not consistent.
Okay, the second question is about the effect of yogurt or beans, for example. You have inconsistent odds ratios. For moderate consumption, they are below 1, and for big consumption, they are much over 1. So it is not possible to do a conclusion based on this way of presentation. You need to maybe to explain this in
beans,
different way.
For beans,
and for yogurt.
Yeah, okay. I can start with beans. It is shown that beans contain a lot of oxalates, which has
no. Just explain the odds ratios. That moderate consumption is protective and high consumption.
But we don't have significant association here. We don't have significance here.
Yeah, okay. What about yogurt?
It was here. Yeah. Here I can say that it could be explained by the fact of that yogurt contains calcium, as we know. And it is shown in several studies that high consumption of calcium has harmful effect for urinary stone disease, for the developing of the disease. But without calcium, it is also has a harmful effect. So if a person consumes enough calcium, it has let's say protective effect because it takes oxalate, it builds some bonds. And it's removed. It could be removed from the organism. So it is also consistent with our with the literature. We had some references for that. It could be explained.
Okay, thanks.
It's like biochemistry. Oh.
I have a comment. I think I mentioned this before. You could combine the groups that have protective effect 1 time per week for yogurt and more than 1 time per week, but there might be an issue with the 1 time per day and more. Okay, did you look into this issue
Yeah,
additionally or not?
we tried to combine several times with different ways, but in some cases we're losing our significance and we were losing power to make assumptions.
Okay, could you go to the slide on exclusion criteria? Yeah, could you clarify for our audience, for example, why did you exclude those who had gallbladder stone disease?
Yes, it is shown in several studies that gallbladder stone disease and urinary stone disease had approximately the same risk factors, especially dietary risk factors, and many patients with gallbladder stone disease had keep some diet, and we couldn't include patients who keep diet. It would bias our results.
And one last question from me. You mentioned that you were interested to see if there was interaction with gender.
Yeah.
Did you find inconsistencies in the literature, or what was based on this research question?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That research question was based on one study which was conducted in China. It was very similar to this study, and they found some differences in consumption of some types of meat or some types of foods, but we didn't find any differences.
Thank you, Inessa. I have a question about the food items that how did you selected food items for the inclusion in your questionnaire?
Okay. The food items were mainly included considering the let's say preventive guidelines from the guidelines from the European Association of Urology, which who promote like preventive steps for urinary stone disease, and also we used we referred to the one of the studies which was conducted also in AUA in 2014, as I remember. It was also about kidney stone diseases, but we in that study we used only food groups, but we used separate food items to see differences in food items, and also these food items were used in different studies, and we could compare our findings with other studies.
Oh, yes, my next question was about the comparison. So did you find anything in contradiction with the guidelines in terms of the factors, or you just confirmed what was there in the guidelines before?
Mainly we compared what we had in guidelines and in other studies.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I have another question about your multivariate analysis and your odds ratios. So you have very wide confidence intervals. Could you explain?
Which one you?
You had several actually. Beans as well. I think you have pretty wide confidence interval. So how do you explain it? Thank you.
We mainly I can say how to explain really, but we for this question, to answer this question, we check for collinearity all these factors in multivariate regression analysis, and all our variances were about 1 and 28 and about it, and the mean was also 1.29. And we didn't find any collinearity between these factors, so we were thinking that it might be, but it didn't.
Just a helpful comment, maybe you could look at the numbers of people who were in those categories to see if you would have a potential issue with empty cell type of issues.
We combined all the frequencies which didn't have any responses. We all combined them, and if there were a very small number of participants who answered that frequency, we also combined those frequencies.
Other questions, comments?
I have. You mentioned that the number of number per interviewer decreases the number of interviewer biases. How?
Yeah.
It
Because if we had several interviewers, we should train them and I couldn't check how we do interviews, how they ask the questions. Every question had 5 frequencies and 5 response options, and every time we should ask the same way. And I wasn't sure that other interviewers could do the same as I did.
I'm sorry, but you didn't convince me.
Thank you. Okay, so next speaker is Nari Nagasarjan.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to present you my thesis project, which is about antibiotic use. It's a cross-sectional survey of knowledge, attitude and practice among Yerevan adult population. So I will talk about the background, I will present the study aim, methodology, results and discussions recommendations. Antibiotics are medicines that are used for prevention and treatment of bacterial infections. And according to WHO, antibiotic resistance is the ability of bacteria or other microbes to resist the effects of an antibiotic. It is a result of mutation in microbial organism, gene transfer, and selection pressure. It can occur naturally, however, the misuse of